Hi, I'm Laura.
Hey, I'm Steffen, and you're listening to Attributed, a podcast library by Dreamdata.
The purpose of it is to store and share all the knowledge that we have gathered across Dreamdata employees through our LinkedIn Lives, podcasts, and webinars.
The typical topics you'll find here can be stuff like marketing,
Sales,
B2B ads,
operations,
social selling maybe.
Today, we are going to talk about the B2B Go-to-market benchmarks that we have kicked off a couple of weeks ago. And we already started hearing that people are talking about it and saying, oh, we can see that all over the internet. Well, that was the hope, but that was not the core intention why we did this. So thank you for telling us this. We're very happy that, and I hope that you're seeing that valuable as well. Today, we have gathered the full team at Dreamdata who has been working on the benchmarks. Of course, besides the data of our anonymized customers, we had this beautiful team working on them, and we're going to walk them through. So to start with, very important, before I start introducing the team, the faces you may not have seen, remember, you can post your chats on LinkedIn. We're looking forward to hearing any questions or your feedback. You can even try to say hi right now if you can hear us or can see it, so we can see that the chat is actually working. Give us the likes and the views and the sugar rushes. Yes. I'm just going to check the last time if it's working. It's working. Perfect. Good. So, hello. So, today, who do we have online? So, first of all, you might not have met Jeremy just as much as you have met the two gentlemen just besides me. So, Jeremy, do you want to give a quick intro to yourself?
Yeah, not too much to say, really. I'm the content manager at Dreamdata, and I pretty much write most of the posts, the blog posts and emails that we send out, including this report. So that's why I'm here, I guess.
Oh, Jeremy, you are so humble. Jeremy is the person that is kicking off all of our ideas for LinkedIn, for reports, for blogs, and so on. And you're still doing this. You are the machine of everything behind what we're doing. With us, Steffen, our CMO, Hello. And we've got Lars, our CEO. You might have met him a couple of times, but now we're going to talk about all the metrics that we have been cooking for you. So, to start with, you might have seen the report and might have seen the metrics, but real quick, Steffen, why did we kick off this kind of a benchmark report?
I think out of, first of all, curiosity, like something we've always wanted to do, and we've just kind of waited to have enough scale for the numbers to start to get really interesting. But, when I'm looking at our own numbers, I'm always thinking, are we doing better? Are we doing worse than other accounts? Is our journeys longer or shorter? Do we take more touches because our product is involved in the journey? Is there more touches in our sales versus other sales, etc.? So we've just been super curious to see. And me and Jeremy, had that approach of kind of, let's do a minimum viable effort for this to see what we can pull out, and just scratching the surface of what we did with this report was super interesting. And there's a ton of more questions we would like to investigate, but we wanted to just start from the surface of what we could look at.
Right. There's a lot cooking I can hear besides everything here that we're having. That's very cool. Jeremy, when looking into the report, you have been writing the biggest part of it. How do you think people could use the metrics in their go-to-market strategies now, seeing the averages?
I think there is more depth than the wow factor that we've gotten in most of the comments and stuff on social media. And there is certainly utility. I think there's in using these, in fact, to tweak your go-to-market tactics and strategies. I think the obvious one that I'd point to is customer journey length. I think that's also been a favorite for everyone that's commented on this. I mean, it helps kind of place a temporal parameter on your activities, right? So this is measuring it yourself, and then I'll get to how the benchmark can help, the ones that we released on the report. So how often would, for example, a paid performance marketer kind of cut an experiment short on the basis that it's not bearing any fruit, or oppositely leave it run too long at great cost? simply because, they're waiting for the results. Well, time to revenue, customer journey length by pipeline stage is going to be the metric that kind of, helps you set those barometers, right? And the same for an account executive. I'd even say, nurturing opportunities and prospects for longer than they should. So this metric is what kind of fills that gap. The result of that is that you end up getting a suboptimal go-to-market, right? It becomes inefficient, spending too much time or too little time on the right things. Now, what does our benchmark do? Once you're measuring this yourself, and that's kind of a pretty critical component here. If you're not measuring it, the benchmark's useless, really. And that's from first touch, anonymous first touch, right through to the deal is closed. You can use it as a reference point, right? You can say, okay, wait, so I'm actually taking 250 days, whilst I see that others in the SaaS space are taking, way less. So then I should try and optimize further precisely, with these kind of tweaks. We also talk about that a lot in our blog posts and our LinkedIn content. So yeah, I think that would be an obvious kind of utility from the benchmark.
I think we quite jokingly started talking about also, I think it's 192 days that your average journey is.
Yeah.
And if you start counting, you quickly end up around Christmas.
Yeah.
So, but it's true then, given the average here, if you want to produce more pipeline or like revenue before the end of the year, you should start now, which I think a lot of people have no clue that it actually takes this long. It's not a fluffy statement. It's real numbers from real accounts.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, I know what I'm going to be doing during Christmas. I can see that in the customer journeys. Lars, which teams do you think could benefit out of knowing the statistics that are coming out? Customer journey length, amount of stakeholders, and so on. Which teams does it touch?
Yeah, I think understanding this, the part of the funnel that is typically not very well understood in connection with sales data. So all the tracking that you can do prior to something becoming a lead in your CRM system, joining those two things, I think is fundamental for, we've talked about this a lot. So how can marketing work with sales? Well, marketing needs to understand what happens to the leads later on. Mm-hmm. But sales, on the other hand, you need to understand where the things come from, and you need together to understand the length of it, like what Steffen said. If we actually, in our company, I think the length was even longer than the average here. Mm-hmm. So it's not shared in the report, but our number is actually higher than that. So if we want to close a good December this year, well, we need to really speed up. And I think this sort of fundamental understanding of what the B2B go-to-market, the total funnel, what that looks like, because we're getting a lot of people saying, yeah, but my funnel is much shorter. It's only 1 month. It's true. Our sales funnel is also super fast. Laura is you're very good at selling. So the actual sales funnel is super fast. But before the sales funnel, there's typically a qualification. And then before the qualification, there is sort of the modern way of people purchasing software in SaaS is a lot of research, a lot of interactions, many people, many channels over a very long time. And that understanding, I think, is what a report like this just puts it shines a really bright light on. I think it's an awesome piece of work that you did, Jeremy.
We love it. And one thing that struck me when looking into our own data is that, well, when talking to clients, we usually ask them, what's your customer journey length? They would say, 3 months. It's but when do you start to measure your customer journey? When they book a demo. Okay. So is that when they are already aware that they want to talk to you? But what happens before that, the very first touch for Dreamdata is actually more or less 50-50. So if I'm talking to a client today because they booked a demo, that means around as long as it took for them to find out that this is the solution they need, or at least that they have a problem, it will take me to close the deal. You can start calculating stuff. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah, so if you talk about which teams can use it, it's both. If the sales director wants to hit his budget, he needs to know kind of the full length and not just from when the demo call converts. But it's also for the marketer to know my activities needs to start now if we are to deliver enough marketing sourced pipeline for the salespeople later this year.
Lars, another follow-up question for you that actually came through comments on LinkedIn. the benchmarks that we have, let's say a company created the benchmarks, can those lead to wrong conclusions by different teams? If you take like leadership team and people executing on the floor,
if they can reach different conclusions based on it,
yeah, can they lead to wrong conclusions?
Wrong conclusions.
Yeah, like leadership is looking at the customer journey length, and now they know that. But
I think like this is back to what I said before, that there's a lot of people saying, but my journey is like, you said it as well, like, oh, but my funnel is much shorter.
Yeah.
I had people say, yeah, but maybe you should work on sort of like shortening the funnel. And it's like, it's a different number than what people are used to looking at. So when you're looking at this number, it's like the 192 days here, you need to be quite careful about understanding that this is sort of from the very first recorded touch of an account until it closes, which is very different from what people are usually measuring. I think it's like an insanely useful thing to know.
Yeah.
Because if you don't really know it, I don't know how you can sort of predictably run your business and generate revenue.
Cool. All right. So the next step will be some questions, and then each of the gentlemen will pick up a stat that they would like to talk about by themselves. So now we're moving into questions to just break out for a very short while. We've got 2 questions so far, actually more, because Hannibal came with 2 questions. So far we've got 3 questions.
But please just type all the questions you have.
Type them out. We're going to respond to them. If we don't manage them today, we're going to respond to them on LinkedIn as well. So Hannibal, you are coming up with your questions. So 2 questions. Do you have the data at hand on median values and outliers? And do you have data on how time to revenue is correlated to deal size? Any takers?
I think I can see on the first one on the stats, we haven't done that. So this is a very, like what Steffen said, it is an MVP in terms of let's try to get some data out of what we have. So we haven't done that.
But to the second question, like deal sizes versus time to revenue, that's available on any Dreamdata account. So if you just go to revenue analytics, you can find this number on your own account.
But do we know sort of, is there any sort of like connection between, like, do we know what the relation is like if people are doing like, say, 25K tickets versus 100K tickets?
There is actually a table that shows it, that says this is the deal size and this is the time it takes. But actually, no, with the longer and longer time, the exact correlation from a statistical, scientifically correct perspective, I'm not sure. No, that's true.
Well, what's in the report?
No,
in the report?
No, it's not included. No.
We have been discussing to create a more extensive report that is looking more into the data and like deeper insight. So that is going there.
But the one with the larger companies, you can say, which tend to take longer time, actually it takes 40% longer time. That is in the report.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a good one for further research.
Yeah, definitely. We've got another question from Greg Walters. So here it goes. The sales funnel is super fast because of previous interactions. Can you define a touch? Oh, Lars, you love this.
Yeah. So the way, a touch for us is sort of an interaction between the customer and the company selling. So it can happen on a website. It can be a call. It can be a webinar. So it's like 2 people interacting in a short period of time. And if you sort of like, if you do many of them on a website, it's the same as sessions, for instance. But we have touches are we define as in any channel where we know that it happened.
Then we've got, why did it jump by itself?
Yes, how often companies post content? No.
Do you have stats over how often companies post content? No, we would love
I know I have a stat on how often Laura posts content.
That's like, too much.
2 times per day.
No, that one is no. What do you have? Can we identify users on our website, like name, email, company name, websites? Well,
I can explain the simple form of how the Dreamdata script works. When somebody arrives to your website, we'll assign an anonymous ID to this person on the website. And then we'll start writing down where did this person and this anonymous person come from, what did they do, etc. If this person then arrives to your website 4, 5, 6 times during the next month without identifying, we'll just keep adding to the history of this anonymous ID. If at some point then this anonymous ID pushes a form through, which can be download an ebook or submit a newsletter form or a demo booking form, then we get permission to join the identity we now know who is, together with the anonymous behavior. So in that sense, yes, we get to know all these things, but only when the user consents for us to do so.
That's a very good question. There was a follow-up question, like, does a touch must be an interaction, or
yeah, it has to be like a recorded, like it's about the, like, what is a touch? So it has to be something that's recorded either in a CRM system, in tracking, in marketing automation. You know, if you do like viewing website pages, if we record that, we can associate it with the account, then it's a touch.
Yeah, and I think in that sense, I think the term is that it's deterministic. It's something that it actually left a touch that we can get into a data warehouse. So if it's not exposed, like a comment on LinkedIn, etc., we can't. So it's probably actually even longer than the 192 days that we have recorded.
Yeah,
I think if like some of the answers here are quite short to this. So if you want more info, just reach out on LinkedIn and ask, and then we'll write long answers with more detail.
Exactly. There's a question about offline sources as well. And Francesca, yes, we do pick up offline sources too. And we're able to put that into the customer journey as well. Feel free to post more questions. We will pick them up at the end of the session. But now we're going to do a carousel of everybody picking up one at a time. So we are going to start with you, Steffen.
Yeah.
Customer journey length. This was the favorite of everybody. So you're lucky to talk about this.
I can, so we've already talked a lot about it, but, you know, look at that number. That means that it's Christmas now. If you get a new account on your website now, then it'll be Christmas before you in average sell to it, which is massive. If you're trying to understand whether your marketing activity is working or not, you don't make the conclusion in June or July. You have to wait 6 months, which is crazy. Obviously, you can set up some proxy metrics on the road to, you know, winning a deal, which could be they booked a demo call, or they signed up to the newsletter, or they entered the sales pipeline.
Interesting.
But journeys are just really, really long, and you end up underestimating or overestimating your experiments, and you end up missing revenue targets if you don't understand how early you actually need to start.
Wow. And for a marketer, that should be nerve-wracking. I remember a comment on LinkedIn saying, I moved from B2C and now I'm in B2B and it takes this long time. Like, how? But Steffen, what kind of tactics do you like? Do you do mindfulness to wait for that?
No, I think like the North Star of most B2B companies is to get to some sort of predictable revenue. The way Lars and I try to calculate that is by knowing every single step of our sales pipeline and knowing how long in average it takes in each stage. So if we need to produce 10 deals in December, we would need to calculate how many sales qualified opportunities do we need for that? What does that mean in terms of marketing qualified leads, and how long does it take in each stage? So that's why I'm saying MQL is not that. You just have to have a really strict definition of what it is and know how long it actually takes from each stage. And in that sense, then you can actually hit the 192 days if you understand. And I think that's both goes to the salespeople and to the marketers. Everybody should know the whole length of the customer journey and not just kind of the sales pipeline.
Yes.
Yes.
You would think we were selling this on a day-to-day basis.
I don't know. Good. So now moving on to Jeremy. You have chosen 2. So you don't get the most popular one, but then you get 2. Okay?
Yeah.
What do you want to start with? The number of touches?
Yeah, we can do the number of touches. But before I do, there's a lot of interesting sales pitch that Steffen's made, and especially on this forecasting one, right? We've got good blog posts on all of them, so let me put out my pitch. You know, visit our blog page, and you can see how we're kind of setting up our funnel, and also how we're using that to forecast and stuff. So check out the blog. Okay, so back to the benchmarks. Yeah, so why did I choose this one and the next one, which is also the number of stakeholders involved per account, is because they really kind of, I think, underline the B2B nature of what we're talking about here, right? It's multi-touch. It's always going to be multi-touch. And it's always going to involve an account. Beyond that, really, I think if you go into the report yourselves, you can check out the subtle differences between pipeline stages, for example. So the breakdown of those 31 touches between pipeline stages, that can also kind of help again improve your go-to-market. Something we didn't include in this data is proof of concept touches, or PGL touches, which is also quite popular in the B2B space. That I think is something we might consider in the future, because that will kind of grow the number of touches that the customer will have exponentially. I mean, but it would also be interesting for those that are kind of in that space to see those stats. So we're bearing that in mind. And then the second one is the number of stakeholders. Yeah, as I've already said, it kind of underlines the account-based nature of the B2B customer journey. An analysis that as well also for the future would be correlating length of customer journey with the number of stakeholders, because we saw that the spread is actually pretty big. So whereas the average is about 1.9, we see that some of them, include way more stakeholders. The buying committee is huge, and these kind of also intersect at different points of the customer journey. So yeah, super interesting for the B2B space, and I think we'll be digging deeper in our next report, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And when I sell to people who are interested in Dreamdata, that's kind of a very good indication. Somebody comes to a demo and they love the product. They love the product and they've got the money. It's like, I'm in sales. Okay, now? No. Easy. This is not going to close. Like, where should you panic? One person cannot, well, in some cases, can buy a solution for B2B and SaaS. Almost never happen.
It's my turn now.
You will. No way. Okay. Now we do you. And Lars is going to talk about the bonus statistics. So
yeah. So the bonus is really it's sort of a follow-on from Steffen's, which is sort of the length of his journey, but how it varies depending on the origin of like the first touch. So I think so in the data we present here, we say, well, if the first touch is from a review site, it's actually a shorter journey than other cases. And that's, of course, very interesting. And I think that just shows that, of course, there's always a touch before the one on the review site that has to be there. But the first one, is that, then it's going to be a fairly short journey. I think that makes a ton of sense if you're in B2B SaaS, because if people are looking at reviews, they are sort of pretty far down the funnel and they are considering the product. So it makes sense. But what makes this most exciting, I think, is sort of the ability that this data can give you to sort of predict the length of the customer journey. That if things come from certain channels, then the journey will be shorter. And that's, of course, good. Sometimes things can come from sources where it takes a long time, and that's not necessarily bad. I mean, sometimes it's just that was very cheap, and then actually a year is great if you have a year to wait.
Yeah.
So I know like of a case where the most profitable channel at all, it took like a year before things became business.
Wow.
And if you didn't know that, like, first of all, you completely underestimate the value of that channel, and you might down prioritize it and sort of act like, in this case, you'd kill your business if you did it. So knowing this and knowing that you might have channels that are very, very, very good at driving business, but it just takes a long time, that can mean a lot of difference to your business.
Yeah, or like if the pipeline is a bit dry, you would want to understand, is there a particular channel that I can turn up and then push a little bit more in faster?
Is there something, like if you are like approaching Christmas and you didn't start driving demand when Laura said you had to, and now you're kind of screwed and you really need to ramp up those deals, well, then look for the ones that has a short path to revenue and do a lot of that, right?
That was a good bonus. I was thinking about, Steffen, when you work with marketing and you know which channel is driving the fastest deals and which channels are driving the slower ones, how do you adjust your strategy? Where do you put your money?
So like for our sake, it's paid tends to be faster because you can get in front of actual demand. Whereas our slower ones are social, which means that they've been following all the work we do on LinkedIn, or it's organic. And it's kind of, where do I want to go with this? So, I mean, more, on a channel basis, there's stuff that moves faster, where you can also expect the result faster and adjust your actions if it's not working. on social, we can see that it takes a long time, but we can also see how meaningful people engage with us. So we're more patient here because we know it's probably working.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually very curious. So let's say our demand was not so high. Like this month, it doesn't work. Where do you put your money today?
Right now, we work a lot with the sort of. I'll ask you to put up another LinkedIn post.
Yes.
But, I really like the matched audiences on LinkedIn, where you can kind of upload a list of specifically named accounts that fit your ideal customer profile. And then I'll ask Jeremy to come up with some cool new content that we can put in front of these people. And then you run ads towards specific accounts that you know where the content is of a good quality. We've seen, like, when we put up good content, it gives us an immediate boost.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, and I've tried the fast results, like come and book a demo with me. Doesn't work. I had to try it so you don't have to. Let me just go into the chats. If we have any more good questions. This one's interesting. Okay, so which initial touch revealed the shortest journey?
So in the benchmark report, it is literally review websites.
Yeah.
And I think that's an additional point here is that's very interesting because those are actually anonymous touches that we join in using typically data from G2. So the fact that journey is so short, I think that is actually eye-opening for me. I thought it would be longer because we see it ourselves when we inspect our own customer journeys, that there are a lot of sort of touches from like anonymous touches on G2 that you can then see lead into our funnel and then sales, and it is short. So that was the short one. And the long one, I think there are 3 channels, and the long one is social, which is sort of matching what Steffen says, that social activities take a long time to mature.
But I think the review one, like a specific action you can take is to go to your Capterra or go to your G2, see where you rank. If you rank 10 right now, what would then go add another 10 reviews and move up there, because the quality of the leads that come from these platforms is super high. So involve your CS team. I always come to the salespeople and ask, who can we get a review from so we can keep going up? And it's this understanding of how does the whole pipeline work and the channels, how do they work, and then you can take actions based out of that.
And I would say like review sites you can actually act fairly fast on them. It's not necessarily super slow, because the demand that you find there is very sort of late funnel. So if you can tap into it, it's great. And like some of the efforts you have to make is not that crazy, right? Not necessarily even spend money. It is more like effort, actually, talk to your customers.
Yeah. There are a lot of very cool questions. Any takers? What should we take first?
You can touch your TikTok experimental.
My TikTok okay, Eva. TikTok is a channel much discussed in B2B marketing. Do you see some interesting stats related to this platform or other emerging ones? I'm on TikTok. You can follow me, but as I'm saying, I'm trying to build the following while nobody's watching. Because
that's a good statement.
I really don't know if it works. So far, it produced 0. It produced fun. It was fun. I don't dance there. Maybe one day I will. It's fun. But one thing that I really see, and a lot of people are talking about, is that TikTok videos perform really good on LinkedIn. So if you post the really good quality and really snappy, quick videos on TikTok, and you repost them on LinkedIn, that's what performs well right now. Otherwise, any other emerging ones coming?
No, I think what you're saying is like an evergreen in marketing that work the platform while it's not popular, because then it's a blue ocean. And then when it goes big, you're big. So test it, see if it works for your business.
Hannibal has another question. How do you balance this with demand-focused ads meant for in-feed consumption where a touch is not recorded?
I can say a little bit about how I think about it now. I have been very radical in the sense that once I felt you had to be able to measure everything. So you needed to do a lot. I needed to do a lot of click-based tactics, because those are the things that measure. I've now moved a little bit more into, as I just need to be sure that it's the right people that are watching the ads. Then I don't have to force them onto our platform, because I know this is our ideal customer profile. It's a good piece of content, and if they're engaging with it, that's just fine. I would still need to see something coming out of it, but you don't have to be like hardcore that it has to be a click that goes to your website, that signs up to your newsletter, some books a demo, etc.
All right. We are 2 minutes past half. We're going to continue with a couple of questions. If anybody has more, continue posting them. But kind of, yeah, you can, if you're leaving now, so
it's okay.
it's okay. And you can keep on following us further. But we've got another question. I think it's quite interesting. We're low on resources in marketing, both in manpower and economically. Our first touch point would often be the cold outreach. Got any recommendations for a scale-up company?
Review, like if I think it depends on your product, but if you can be on review websites and you are not, then do it. I think it is work. So it depends on what low on resources means, but it's definitely work because you have to engage with your customers and talk to them and say, hey, it matters to us that you leave a review of us. Please do it. We did a lot of work here. Also, we offer a product for free for smaller companies. That in itself also drives a lot of reviews because now we have like way more people actually trying our product that can like evaluate the product, look at it, and tell us what they think about it. But any tactic you can do around reviews, I think that is very powerful. Depends on what you mean low on resources. If it's money, that's a great tactic. Yeah. If it's more people and you just want to spend a lot of money, I don't know.
Then make these matched audiences.
Yeah, then matched audiences.
Run ads. Yeah. You can sit there for a long while.
Alrighty. We don't have any more questions. And I want to thank you guys for joining this fantastic session.
We hope you like listening to us. Subscribe to our podcast and the ones that we have been guests on.
And if you have any feedback for us, just do let us know. And should there be a guest that you think we should be talking to, then pitch us.
We're looking forward to seeing you.